Hey everyone, Lance here, back after a long hiatus. So firstly, I just want to apologise for the long gap between content. There's a few reasons for that. One is I have a day job, so a good portion of my time is dedicated to that. Two, I also own my small business, which isn't wholly passive. It does need me to get involved and apply some time to it from time to time, so that has also taken up a chunk of my spare time. And thirdly, the British winter is not very forgiving for working on cars outside. The current situation I have with my driveway and garage means that if I was to do any work on cars, it would be on the driveway, and it's just not good for your health, essentially. The BMW Z4 did have work on it. I did actually record some videos of me, putting in an intake, cleaning up the headlights, so on and so forth. They may see the light of day, but for reasons I'll get into in a moment, essentially the Z4 is no longer with me. I might as well just get into that. So, as I probably explained in or mentioned in past videos, I had three cars. So the Peugeot 208, which was a 2020 model, we got it brand new. That was for the missus and for me to run around as a daily as and when I needed. We had the Toyota Supra and the BMW Z4 Coupe. And recently we found that we needed something a bit larger, something like an SUV or a CUV. So I decided to consolidate and go from three cars to two, because, the BMW Z4 and the Supra were pretty much the same type of car, you know what I mean? They scratched the same itch. It's just that I wanted to work on the Z4. So we ended up trading in the Peugeot 208 for one of the brand new Hyundai Tucsons. And that's a brilliant car. It's an awesome machine. It's nothing exotic or special or anything like that, but it does the trick and it does it well. It's loaded with tech. Girlfriend likes driving it. I actually like driving it. And it means we can just pootle about, put stuff in the back, go to trip runs and stuff like that. Tip runs, and actually get a family in there if needed. So we did that first, and then the Supra, an amazing car. I'd had it for about 8 or 9 months, and with the way the market is at the moment, prices are just crazy. And I'm one of those people who I'll rotate my cars probably once a year or something like that, and I'm constantly looking at prices and on the market, and I just thought it was it wasn't seeing the most use, and I just thought, the prices are right at the moment. I could actually get out of the Supra now, to little to no cost. So I used CarWow out of all places, and I actually got offers from where I purchased it from, and another offer from another dealership, which were really, really strong. So much so, I ended up with more money than I actually paid for it. So it was essentially like me owning the car for a month for free. For the 8 months, at little to no cost. And I ended up with a chunk of change in my pocket. So that went to a dealership down south. And I was happy with that transaction. That was great. It was an amazing car, handled well. It was rapid, turned loads of heads. It just wasn't. I was just wanting something a bit more aggressive. Which we'll get onto later. And then the BMW Z4, prices were relatively strong on my car, so I bought it cheap, did some work on it, and then I went out looking for a new car and decided to trade in the Z4. I'll go into a bit more detail about that in my next video, and you'll see in my next video what car I ended up getting when I traded that Z4 in. But suffice to say, the new car scratches the itch of being, aggressive. It's a similar type of car. The Z4's gone now as well. I did record a full video of me, driving it for one last time, and then taking some of the modifications that I'd done off it to sell separately and returning it to stock, essentially. There was only a couple of things I needed to do to that vehicle, and it would have been 100% mint. And those things were, it needed to be painted on the front bumper, so the front bumper could have done with a complete respray. and one of the interior trim pieces, the sunglasses holder, needed replacing. But other than that, you could probably say, yeah, maybe the wheels needed another refurb as well. But other than that, the machine was mint. It had a new exhaust installed, which was a Super Sprint one, if I remember right. And then I did a Group M intake, which sounded amazing. I had coilovers ready for it, which I've actually now sold since. And the front splitter was ready to go on, which I would have done this summer if I didn't get rid of it. But yeah, so the Z4's gone. Will the final drive video see the light of day? I'm not 100% certain. The sound on it was not recorded very well, so it would require a bit of editing. I might overlay some of the video now just to show you, you know, some of the last images of it before it actually went to the dealership. But yeah, the Z4's gone, along with the Supra. So that leads me to the content of this video. It's a bit of a long ramble, but yeah, the content of this video. So what are we actually doing? So when I was looking for a new car, I actually wanted a convertible. What I ended up buying recently was not a convertible. So I have some money burning a hole in my pocket and I want to buy a convertible. It kind of goes contrary to what I was saying just a moment ago, which is I wanted to consolidate, go from 3 to 2 cars, but actually I've gone from 3 to 3, which, you know, is no bad thing. But yeah, I was actually originally looking for a convertible. I ended up deciding on something else, which again is an amazing vehicle in my opinion, which you'll see in the next video. But now I need to look for a convertible, and that's hopefully where you guys come in, and that's what we're going to do right now. I'm going to look through a couple of searches on Auto Trader of the things that I've got in my head that I'm keen to look at, potentially drive, and, you know, rule out right away. And with that, you guys can comment in the comments down below to see whether or not there's anything I've missed. So let's just get to it. So here we are on Auto Trader of our websites. I mean, if you're a car nut like me, then you probably spend a lot of your waking life on Auto Trader. And this is what I do quite a lot. I'll keep an eye on prices and then also, you know, what's about. So these are a few searches I've got saved, and we'll go through a couple of them now and just see what I fancy. So I guess we'll start off with in alphabetical order and just see where it takes us. So the first ones I was looking at is, I mean, in fact, it's probably a good thing to say, like, what is the budget? The budget for this is £15,000. That's the upper budget that I want to spend on this convertible. The car I've got the other day is a powerful coupe, and now I'm not fussed if this is like a little bit slower. It has to be older, obviously, so, you know, I'm not going to be looking at brand new Audi TTRSs. I'm looking for just a convertible as a fun little run around during the summer type of thing, but, you know, something that has a bit of recognition, I guess. Mileage doesn't really bother me. I guess it just depends on, I'll buy on the history and the quality of the car. Mileage will only bother me if it's, say, like, you know, a V10 or something silly like that, and it's got like 150k on it, then you know potentially that some of those things, when they do go, because, you know, they do when they get older, might be quite costly. So I'm not bothered about mileage, but I am at the same time. Just depends on the type of car it is. But anyway, the first car we've landed on, and I was thinking in my head, is the TTRS. I've never driven a TTRS, and you can get in at the very low end at, you know, for under £15,000. And this, I'm talking the Gen 2. You know, the ones over 15, you could probably haggle or barter down to 15 or under. But yeah, I've never driven them. I've driven a Gen 2 TT. It was I think it was the V6 Quattro one. It was back in like 2015. Yeah, it felt good, felt cool. My only bother with the TTs is I don't know, just the looks. The Gen 2 ones anyway are kind of starting to show their age, I guess. They're not as a timeless design as some other vehicles I feel out there. No, maybe that'll come in time. But yeah, I'm not I'm not sure. There's nothing immediately. Obviously, the range is limited with the £15,000 budget, but even ones around that. And again, I should probably body type convertible. Yeah, they don't really. Nothing really jumps out at me, and at that price, I would have thought maybe you're looking at like the base spec, the pauper spec. Okay, maybe we should rule that out, unless anybody's got any, maybe I'm being a bit too brutal on the Audi TTRS. Okay, so next, the BMW M3 in convertible guise. So I've added to convertible and maximum £16,000 to the search now. And for that money, you'll be looking at probably the E46 M3, maybe the E92, is it? And possibly, yeah, the older one, the Evolution, the E36, if I remember right. So I'm a big fan of the E46. S54 engine in it, just like the Z4. Slightly slower, but obviously it's a bigger car. And for that price, well, it looks like you can get into a manual. Big miles. Again, that doesn't really fuss me. It's quite a stout engine. As long as the relevant service items have been done, that's not too bothered. Because I know the engine, I'm not too fussed about it. 96,000 mile E92. These V8s sound amazing. They are a nice looking car as well. I'm not sure about that grey interior with the aluminium looking dash. The older models as well, the 2008s. Oh, the chrome trim. I mean, it doesn't look too bad, to be honest. Heated seats, cool. That one does have the electronic damper control, which I think is probably a must. When I test drove one of these years ago, when I was living in Fareham down south, I test drove a coupe which had the EDC, and pressing that button, it's probably the biggest difference I've actually felt in the suspension of a car when pressing that button. So yeah, I think you need that personally. Ooh, that E46 looks nice. Those wheels look sweet. CSL replicas by the looks of it, but they're in a nice colour. Just lighter than the darkest black. That looks tidy. What I tend to do when looking at cars is I'll look. If I like the look of it, then I'll read further. If it's not something that's like immediately shouting, coming by me, I look, cool. Yeah, that does look really tidy. What is that? Nearly 100k miles. It's from a trader. Last service in November. MLT till 23. What does it say about service history? Doesn't say much. Okay, moving on. Ooh, that looks nice. So it looks like they've wrapped the front splitter. Do not like that number plate. Wheels look good. They look like, are they M4 competition alloys? They suit the car. Red interior, which is my preference on the E92. Looks like this looks like it's been modified quite a bit. Okay, it's missing the front badge. Slightly different kidney grills. They've done something to the exhaust. I hate those blacked out number plates. They are not nice. I don't mind buying like a modified car as long as it's tasteful. That type of stuff on that one, not really for me. I want to kind of avoid Cat D and Cat C purely. That's just for resale value. I'm sure the cars are probably fine. But yeah, just for my own sake, I just want to avoid it. This is Phoenix Yellow, if I remember right. You know what? I like Phoenix Yellow on the E46. I think it looks. I'm not fond of it on the Z4, but yeah, on the E46, I think it suits the car. Okay, Super Sprint exhaust. That's cool. Looks like they've got the Alcantara wheel. It's got nav. 125,000 miles. Yeah, Phoenix Yellow. Sorry, I didn't even read that. Hammer card and sat nav, heated seats, electric seats, hardtop, HPI clear, 125k. Service history, BMW. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, that looks quite nice. 15k on the dot. Private seller as well, so there's probably room for negotiation It's a nice looking car. Okay, let's move on to the next car. Here we go. So yeah, the next is the Z4m Roadster. So I've driven a plethora of Z4s, Z4m Roadster as well. I've driven a couple, and yeah, I love it. You know, it's just like the Z4m Coupe. But I don't know, like I keep gravitating towards these cars because I do enjoy them. But I'm thinking, like, I've just had a coupe. Do I really want the Roadster? But I'm going for a convertible, and you can have them pretty cheap nowadays, under 15 or just over. Like that red one looks pretty sweet. Yeah, that looks good from a dealer as well. 80k miles. It's a massive amount of car for the money, I feel. Interior looks really clean. Quick look at the body. Rep wheels, which are fine, but it looks pretty standard. Yeah, the interior looks nice as well. The carbon effect dash, black on black. Yeah, that looks really cool. And the red, it stands out. It's quite nice, actually. I've never owned one in red. Or driven a red one, but it looks pretty sweet in the pictures. 80k miles. Doesn't really have much information, but yeah, that looks cool. For 16k, might be able to haggle a little bit. Silver grey, Titan silver. I do like Titan silver. 132,000 miles. I mean, that's fair. I mean, I would probably say that's a fine price for it if the history and everything's there. But that wouldn't be the one that jumps out at me straight away, purely because there's examples with less miles on it. So yeah, Interlagos blue one here, for example. Red interior as well. I quite like that. Yeah, that looks pretty sweet. Ceramic coat protected with rare tan interior. Vanos rebuild, complete in 2016 with receipts. Fresh discs and pads. So they're the two biggest expenses, and maybe the clearances. But Pilot Sport 4s. Full service history, next MOT very soon. Okay. That's an interesting one though. 15k. Another blue one. Black with red. And then they get really cheap. I'd imagine these might be basket cases or 130k miles. Service stamps from 2006 to 2021. Stamp 2010 missing. This is from a trader, so you get some warranty. What's the inside like? Oh, it's not got the sat-nav. I think I'd actually prefer one without the sat-nav, in honesty. I think it ages it really well. Okay, so the interior is a little bit tatty. Oh, just a gear knob maybe. It's not presented the best. I'll be honest, I've seen this particular model here for a very long time, so it always, you know, I bet some people on the forums have went to see that car, and there's probably something up with it. It's not the best presented, but then again, for 12 grand, if you get that a bit lower than that, and if you were to pay up to 15, it's one of those things like, is it worth just going for one that's 15 that has everything done, or do you want to have the fun of doing it yourself? I don't know. Okay, moving on to the next one. So next, I've put up the Bmw M3. So this will be the Generation 1. Now, I know you can, so you can get into the convertibles here for less than 15, but they'll be very high miles. I've always been intrigued by these cars. You know, I know the coupe sold a lot more than the convertibles, and it looks like the convertible ones for that money are mega high mileage. So that, like I was alluding to before, the high mileage of a V10, does that sound like a worthwhile proposition? I'm not 100% certain, but to be fair, on Auto Trader, there's not much to go off. There's just a couple of cars under the budget. So, you know, a little over budget, what you're looking at. So you're moving up quite a chunk there. The next one's at 23, and then it's near enough 24. Yeah, at that price, you're moving into cars I'd much rather have than the M6. So, kind of feel that's dead in the water, in all honesty. Let's move on to the next one. Whilst we're here, though, like, I know there's the Z4m, which you can probably scrape. I mean, you know what? Let's just have a look whilst we're here quickly. What can you get? Okay, so you could potentially get a Roadster for under 15, maybe with a bit of haggling and bartering according to what's on Auto Trader. Cat C though. But you've got two at the 16, 17 grand mark. Three. So three around 17 grand. That yellow one looks cool. Dakar yellow. I guess my issue with these though is just they're older than a Z4m, and I feel the Z4m Roadster's worth it's better value for money, if that makes sense. I do like the Z4m. I would love a Z4m coupe. That would be dope. Near enough 200k on that one there. That's an interesting car. 20 grand. The smaller. I don't mind small cars, but smaller than the Z4, slower than the Z4, similar running gear to the Z4. I think I'd probably just prefer the Z4. It'd be cheaper, more up to date, and probably easier to sell in future. Yeah, so no to the Z3, and it looks like the M6 is kind of dead in the water because there's just not many out there. Okay, let's move on to another one. So the next one would be an MX-5. So I've owned two NA MX-5s, well, a Untitled Roadster and the Glen Eagle Special Edition NA MX-5, and I love them. I restored them both. We got the plates welded on the Untitled Roadster, the sills welded, on the Roadster. It had a majority respray. Yeah, we lowered it, period correct alloy wheels, which was really nice. Did some work to clean up under the engine, under the bonnet. Did some work on the engine, and it was sweet. And ended up selling that for a small profit. And the Glen Eagles one, I remember this one in the test drive. The Glen Eagles one drove fine, but then we spent about 20-30 minutes doing the test drive, and then on the way home, once I'd gone to pick it up, it started to overheat. Luckily, the head gasket and everything was fine. Did a compression test, that was all brilliant. So that had some of the intake and heating components replaced, and then I had a detail, had a new roof put on it, had the interior put back to standard because it was missing some of its Glen Eagle specific interior parts. Put that back to standard again. I refurbed the alloys myself, and yeah, it turned out sweet. And again, sold that for a small profit to a collector in the southeast of the UK. Yeah, and I miss those cars. They were really fun cars, like a go-kart. I've driven the MBs, very much like the NA, just a bit more up to date. I've owned an NC1, driven the NC2 and the NC3, I guess you want to call it, or 2.5. I can't remember what they call it in MX-5 land. But yeah, owned an NC1 for a couple of years. That was probably like my first true sports car, and the other two that I tested fine. And I've driven the 1.5 ND, not the 2-litre. And I enjoyed it, actually. It was one of those engines, like, it's not fast or anything, no torque. You just have to wring it out. You have to rag the piss out of it. And, it was a fun car in the drive. I think if I was to go for one of them again, I'd probably go for the ND, which, if I remember. So let's put I'm not going to spend too much time on this because there is going to be hundreds. Yeah, there is. So it looks like if I wanted one under 15 grand, that would be easy all day long. We'll move on to the next car. So next would be Porsche Boxster, and I'm probably thinking it would have to be 987S for the money we're talking. There's no way there is a 981 under 20, I would have thought. So it would be S, and it looks like you might be able to get into the 3.4 litre. When they facelifted this, the 987, they went from a 3.2 litre in the S to 3.4. Okay, so you can get in a high mileage for under 15, which is cool, which is probably the version I'd want. They have less issues, and they are the version I've actually test driven in the past. So when I went to test drive one of these, I was test driving it against an E89 Z4 23IS drive, the 2.5 litre version, and I just preferred the BMW, in honesty. Not because of like its driving dynamics, just because of its interior and the tech and stuff that you got in it. It was just a more up-to-date car. And they were both 2010 as well, so I don't know. Obviously the Z4 is a later design, being that the 987 came out I think in 2005 and the Z4 started in 2009, so it is a fresher car. But yeah, I just preferred it. It might have just been a bad example of the 987, but it just felt a bit rickety and creaky and just nowhere near as solid. But again, it's a soft top versus a hard top. At that time, I wanted the hard top. And I'm ruling out E89s as well, just because the 35IS has just shot up in price. So yeah, I don't. And now the longer those cars have been out, the less attractive they look to me. So maybe a Porsche. Nothing jumps out at me though when I look at Porsches. Like if this was like 25 grand I'd be looking at 981s because I think they look mint. But the 987 just looked a little bit too soft, especially at the rear haunches where the intakes are. The 981 fixed that. And then again, the 718 looks even better. So I'm not sure. It'd have to be like the right alloys, the right colour combo to really pop out. White looks pretty good. But yeah, there's a lot of these as well. Like, it'd have to be a manual, I think. What do people think of Porsche 987s? I'm not sure. Yeah, there's loads of these to look through. Moving on. Yeah, there's something about them. Like, did it come in any like special colours? Let's yellow. That would be cool. Oh my Christ! Speed yellow. 3.4, 16 grand. That actually looks okay. That looks pretty sweet actually. Those alloys look pretty dope. Bit blingy. The vents being silver is not very nice. But that looks pretty tidy. So that's before the facelift. Oh no, maybe it isn't. I'm not sure. That interior looks older, but it says here the engine. I don't know. Some Porsche aficionado out there is probably going to correct me, but that doesn't look too bad. Okay, maybe a Porsche's on the list. They require further research, I think. So the next one would be a Honda S2000. I was actually going to buy a Honda. I went to view a Honda with the intent on buying it because in the advert it looked good, and I said to myself, this was years ago, by the way, when prices were a bit lower, and they've shot up in value quite a lot recently. It was a 2004, if I remember right. It was the pre-facelift, though. It was in red, and it was relatively local to me. It looked great in the pictures. I'd got into a conversation with the dealer. I went to the dealer's location to actually have a look at it. It wasn't there, and then when I went to contact the dealer again, nothing from it. So they never responded. The place that they said, like on Auto Trader, it said to go to the dealership to visit. There was no actual dealership there, if that makes sense. So maybe it was a scam. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, there's something about S2000s. I quite like them. I've never actually driven one, but yeah, I think they look pretty sweet. The only thing is they have this one you can see here, Nuremberg blue, and they are absolutely everywhere. Not everywhere on the road. That just seems to be like the only colour that exists. And I think if I was going to buy an S2000, it'd have to be like red, yellow. They have that Imola orange, which is a pretty nice colour. In red, it looks pretty sick. Or there's the white as well. It's like a pearlescent white. Crazy money for an S2000. I wouldn't go anywhere near that. White, yellow, orange, red. Maybe the brighter blue. That's not a legit orange, is it? Sorry, a legit yellow, is it? That is not a regular yellow S2000. That must be a wrap. Let me read. Yep, it's grey under the wrap. That's right. Door shuts. Yeah, door shuts grey. Okay, wouldn't go near that. Might be a great car. It's just I don't want to hassle with another wrap. Plus, it's not actually the colour we were looking for. What do people think of S2000s then? Never driven one. Only hear nothing. I hear nothing but positive stories about it. One of the YouTubers I watch goes by the name of Savage Geese. He owns an S2000 and he sings nothing but praises about it, and he's done a couple of buyer's guides which I've watched a couple of times when I was going to potentially buy one of these in the past, and they're a very good resource for that, no doubt. Oh, this one in blue, 14795. That looks quite tidy. It's just been recently washed by the looks of it. So this is the facelift. We never got the AP2 2.2 litre in this country. We only ever had the 2 litre. So all of the cars in the UK are actually AP1 cars. But we did get some revisions. So I think there was some revisions in like 2003, 2005. There was new bumpers, adjusted steering, I think, adjusted suspension, all that type of stuff. New alloys, new light clusters. I actually feel like I prefer the look of the original like this, with the vents off to the side. Looks like they've been closed up or sprayed. There's not much in them, though, to be fair. Yeah, I think the smaller alloys actually look better as well than the larger ones that came on the revised cars. Larger ones like this. So yeah, so what do people think of an S2000? Yeah, I like the look of an S2000. Good thing about them is they're small engine, just a 2 litre. They're relatively bulletproof. They're quite easy to work on, or so I hear. They handle great. The only thing that concerns me is the size of the cabin in the car. Not bothered about the infotainment or any of that rubbish. It's just whether or not I'll actually fit in it, because I've never actually, driven one. I remember sitting inside one in like a used car dealership in like the mid 2000s, but I was a lot thinner then. So yeah, might not be able to fit in it now. So speaking of S2000s, I've just gone onto like the S2K like S2000 Owners Club website and went onto their classifieds and just come across this, which the Imola Orange is probably my favourite colour. It's at a price of 14,500. It's had some mods done to it by the looks of it, so these fog lights are not standard. Those wheels, they look like the update wheels, but not quite. It's got a different intake, different brakes, huge folder of stuff. But it looks, in the pictures, it looks very, very clean. The centre console's had some leather applied to it. All stuff that's easily fixed though. Aftermarket head unit. But, you know, according to this right up here, which is pretty detailed, loads of history, they've got parts to restore it back to standard, and it's the wheeler dealer's car. So I don't know if anybody watches wheeler dealers if you live in the States. Oh, they do wheeler dealers in the States now anyway, but I remember a few years back they did an episode of Wheeler Dealers which was with an orange S2000, and according to the blurb on this is the car, and it's had loads of work done to it. This is an interesting one because it's in the colour I want, it's under budget, it's had some mods, but I don't mind returning it to stock if I feel like I want to be a bit of a purist. And it's got an interesting history. It's done a lot of miles, but it's a bulletproof engine, supposedly. And according to this, it's been rebuilt again. Because I remember they said that it's been rebuilt on the show. And then Ed did some work on it. And it's had an engine rebuild at 133,000 miles. I think I might actually go and look at this one at some point. Then again, it is Berkshire. Okay, so it's a good long drive away. What do people think? S2000? Yay? Nay? Porsche 987S? Boxster? Yeah, I kind of like the look of that one. And I think that's about it. So they're the cars that I was contemplating looking at. I mean, I know there's more than just them. There's TVR Chimeras that you could get into, but I think they're just a bit too raw for my liking. And, you know, they can be real basket cases if the chassis and stuff haven't been worked on. There's also, you could say the SLK 55, the Gen 2 one. Sorry, so there was first gen which had the SLK 32, I think, and then there was the second gen which had the 55, and then the third gen had the 55 as well. But the second gen 55, which I think was a 5.5 litre V8, I might be wrong. Somebody I'm sure will correct me. I'm just not a massive fan of the interior of those cars. At that point, the Mercedes interiors were just a bit chintzy. The car looks okay, but yeah, I'm not a great fan overall. I've sat in a couple of that generation of SLK. I've never driven them, but I don't know, just didn't do it for me. I've got to be relatively comfortable behind the wheel. Is there any other cars that anybody can think of? I'm not sure. Leave your thoughts, recommendations, comments down below. And hopefully in the next video you will see me with my new vehicle that I got to replace the Supra. And in the not too distant future, maybe I've gone to look at some of these and picked up another car. But yeah, any advice, tell me where to look and have a mooch. What do you think I should get as a summer convertible circa 15 grand? Yeah, I look forward to reading any of the suggestions. So yeah, that's it for this video. I know it's a bit of a chunky one, but hopefully it explains where I've been and explains what I'm going to be doing next. So yeah, hope you've had fun. See you later. Take care.